Hey there. If there's nobody there other than me, then that's great. I am trying out a new channel. The new channel's name is Not the News, KNOT. That's kind of cool. So right now I'm just kind of just testing it out. I figured I would do a Elon Trump video today. So this is going to be different. My other channel is not legal advice, even though it shows that name is in there. Maybe I have to change the name. Um, but this is called Not the News. This is the name of the channel. And what I wanted to address tonight was a little bit more what happens if a third party comes into power and how does that work and how does that impact everybody in relation to the split that apparently occurred between Elon and Trump today. Before I get to that, as I do on my other channel, unfortunately or fortunately, if you've never seen it, then it's unfortunate. I apologize. Um, but just kind of to start off before we get going, what happens when a billionaire gets really stretched? He gets elongated. And what do you do, or what do you call a billionaire who sits by himself? Alone Musk. And last but not least, what do you call a billionaire who only comes out at night? Elon Dusk. All right. So today, I don't know, I think everybody was saw at least hint of it. There was an interaction between Elon Musk and President Trump. And this occurred after Musk had basically stepped down from Doge the end of May. And just to kind of give you a little backdrop, and I'm not going to make I'm not going to offer any characterizations or not too many characterizations. But in March, I communicated. So I have like a friendly relationship with a very well-known Tesla creator, and I often send him stuff or at least thoughts. He may think they're annoying or whatever, but I appreciate him looking at them. And I'm not going to mention his name. So in March, I sent him, and I've watched Tesla for quite some time too, so I'm not new to that scene. So in March, I sent him. I communicated with him, and I said, I thought it was an unforced error that Elon took such a dramatic position in support of the Republican Party. I thought for business purposes, now this is kind of my focus, that for business purposes it could have been finessed much better so he wouldn't have alienated the Democratic Party and potentially, because that's a market that obviously that he and Tesla utilize. Especially, I'm in California, so obviously California is a liberal state, but also has the most Teslas of any place in the world. So I thought it was unwise for him to have taken such a bold position against the Democrat, whether he felt it or not. I'm not going to dispute the accuracy of his opinions, but I didn't think it was smart to come out against one party and for another, because as Michael Jordan once said when asked about his shoes and asked about who he was selling them to, and I don't remember the precise question. Of course, I don't remember the precise answer either. But basically, he said Republicans buy shoes also. And he knew that you shouldn't alienate a portion of your market, especially the portion that might be the stronger part of your market. So in March, I indicated that to this gentleman who's a big Tesla person. I also indicated my concern, and I guess it's relevant now, very relevant. This is March. I indicated my concern that I knew, or my belief was based upon what Elon had alluded to, that in a not so distant election, he voted for Clinton and supported Clinton, Hillary Clinton, not Bill Clinton. And now he was whole hog supporting Donald Trump and was kissing his butt. And I thought that was cultish, if nothing else. And that fact alone made me uncomfortable. And I found that conduct to be untrustworthy. When somebody flips so dramatically, it makes me wonder if they were wrong in the first, if they acknowledge, wow, I made a mistake in the first place, why couldn't you be wrong the second time? And apparently, that's exactly what happened. So today it appeared that Elon was basically disassociating himself from the Trump administration and acknowledging that his switch from Clinton to Trump was wrong also, and that he should be supporting a third party. Now, just so we're clear, the last election, and my current stance is I'm an independent. So I'm in California. I have voted for a lot of Democratic candidates in the past. The last election, I did not vote for either of the candidates. I did not support either of the candidates. And I would classify myself as independent. But in my capacity as a California independent, I would not. I don't think that Elon would be a would be a good candidate, or should be a main player in any third party, because I think he's too. I don't know if he has the subtleties, the management style to generate a successful campaign. Just my feeling, and I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't support him. But I would certainly consider a third party candidate. I know Andrew Wang has talked about running, and it doesn't really make a difference who it might be, because I don't know who it might be. But what happens if that occurs? So, I think today there was a bunch of tweets on X, and Elon was mentioning that he'd like to start. I think it was alluding to that we need a third party. And I don't disagree. I think the current system is broken, but I don't think just saying we need a third party without taking a bunch of other actions has any value. And so here are the problems. So let's say the next election, either the 2026 midterms or the 2028 election, doesn't make a difference really. But let's focus on the 2026 midterms. Let's say it comes out, there's third party candidates, the House gets split up differently than it is now, and we go our merry way. 2028 comes, we have the presidential election. Let's say we have a viable third candidate, and I'm just going to use Andrew Wang just for the sake of a placeholder here. So let's say JD Van, and I'm make up candidates. Let's say Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, is running for the Democrats. Let's say JD Vance is running for the Republicans. And let's say Andrew Wang is running for the third party, the Skleege bonus party. Let's call them that. And let's say it comes out in the election, the presidential election, that JD Vance gets 34% of the vote, and well, let's make it bigger. Let's say JD Vance gets 39% of the vote. Let's say Shapiro gets 37% of the vote, and let's say Wang gets 20% of the vote, and the rest is left over. Obviously, or maybe not obvious, it's not just the vote. Obviously, we've seen that. You need the vote of the Electoral College, and you need to get a majority of those votes. I think it's 542 electors, so you need 272. I think that's the number you need. So let's say, based upon that split, perhaps you don't get anybody that gets 272. Perhaps there's nobody even close to 272. So what happens then? Here's the part that becomes the troubling part. So let's say we have an election, a third party, a viable third party candidate, but nobody's close to getting the enough electoral college votes for various reasons. They win certain states, they lose certain states, whatever the situation. But if you have a viable third party candidate who gets a significant amount of the vote, this is a very likely concern. So let's say nobody gets a the 272 of the electoral college vote. What happens after that? It goes to the House. How is it determined in the House? Do we look at, and I'll just use California as an example. Let's say California has 50 congressional members. Do they get 50 votes in this vote for the president? No, they get one vote. Does Texas get, and I'm making up numbers, does Texas get 47 to match the number of representatives they have? No, they get one. And also getting one, for example, is South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Wyoming, who have populations under 1 million. So they are treated the same. And each state is given so the House of Representatives, I think, has 435 members. Instead of that, for the purposes of election time for the president, we only have 100. Excuse me, we only have 50, equivalent to the number of states. And all you need to win is 26. So in essence, you could have a very small minority of the population decide an election. And beyond that, since somebody may not get, maybe there's 3 parties who split up those 50 and nobody gets 26, you may have an unbelievable amount of trading and corruption that arises to get somebody into the White House. And that's not dealt with. So things that have to be changed, obviously, is how we deal with if there is not a winner of the Electoral College, and that would require some kind of constitutional amendment. If someone could win without less than 272, that would require a constitutional amendment. If should do away with the requirement of Electoral College entirely, that would be another option. But there's a bunch of options. But in essence, what happens is a minority of the population control the outcome of the election, and you could conceivably have a party who loses the election by a big margin, but because of the prior midterms, has the majority or more than 26 representatives, that they might prevail. So I think without more clarity, the idea of a third party, I agree with 100%. How you get there, I think, is a different question. And I think you need to deal with what happens if there's nobody wins the election outright, and how that decision is made. And again, that has to be done. Most of it will have to be done by a constitutional amendment, because that's where the laws derive from in the first place. And so Elon and Andrew Wang were throwing it out today, and it's great, but I think they should be working in tandem with people throughout the country if they want to, in effect, give third party a real chance of winning and of also protecting the majority. I think they need to amend the Constitution to permit a different way of resolving the outcome of a presidential election. Obviously now it's not set up to do that, because the system is set up to protect the two parties. Two parties have proven to be ineffective for quite some time. They are effective in terms of spending money, but otherwise they're completely ineffective. So Elon and Trump, they were screaming at each other, sound pretty sophomoric. I don't know what Elon was expecting when he came on with Trump. I think the issue about the EV tax credit and what Trump intended was well known. Perhaps Elon thought he could change his mind. Perhaps he was, confused. I don't know. But interesting now that they've had a falling out. I predicted, I expected that. I didn't think two people of that stature would be able to work together indefinitely. And probably a lot of people thought that too. And it coincided with the 130-day limit for federal employees also. So that might have been baked in all along. Unfortunately, it got so personal. I think the negative is so we talked about they were calling each other names, etc., references to Jeffrey Epstein. And then we talked about the problem is if you have third party, what the ramifications would be and how the difficulties that would arise in trying to pick a president if you didn't have a majority. The other thing that I think that's problematic and the timing is poor is with the current administration trying to negotiate trade deals. I think this spat and the potential inability for the administration to get things passed right away decreases the leverage of the White House in negotiations with other countries involving the trade issues and the tariffs. I think it makes Trump look weaker. Whether he is or not, I don't know. But I think another government could see this spat, which is in a public nature, and decide that that Trump is not in the position of power that he is trying to demonstrate, and they might treat him with more, they might call his bluff more. They may not. They might be more difficult in negotiations. They might require more in turn. They might be more unreasonable. It's hard to tell. But I'm sure it was surprising for Trump, Elon's statement. But Elon's has a strong opinion, and he generally does what he wants to do. At least that's my impression. I don't think anybody, or I don't know. I don't know if anybody has the power to kind of shut him down. But I am the position, and I'll just kind of end with this. My position is, I agree with the issue of a third party. I think, again, constitutionally, to enable the election of a third party or somebody else, that the Constitution has to be changed in terms of if there's no majority in the Electoral College. And I wish that the parties would have done this in private. I think it would be better for all of us if these things occurred in private and they weren't public, didn't expose the United States to ridicule or a loss of power or control elsewhere. So that's my quick view of Elon, Trump, and the Electoral College. It'll be interesting to see if this dispute continues. I expect, maybe like, my time, like 11:30 Pacific, that there might be some tweets or whatever you call a social media post. And these guys, and the reference to Epstein probably was too far to bring it back. I mean, anybody's capable of repairing a relationship. Do I think these guys are going to repair a relationship? It's possible. I'd be surprised, though. Although I wouldn't be surprised if there was communication by agents of them on their behalf. But it was quite, it was entertaining, if nothing else. But again, the third party, I agree with the idea, but I think there's a lot of work that has to be done. And I would not support Elon if he was in charge. If he will just be straight and direct. You have to be a U.S. born citizen to run for president. So obviously, Elon could not run for president. He could be involved with a third party, obviously, but he could not run for president. By the way, so the House, if there's no majority, the House picks the president. But only picks the president. The Senate gets to pick the vice president. And theoretically, I mean, just to throw it out, you could have, they don't have to be of the same party, because it may not be the same party that controls the Senate, or it may be the way of balancing the executive branch by having somebody from another party as vice president. It could be pretty entertaining. But it wouldn't necessarily have to be, I don't think, Republican, Democrat. It might be like you could have perhaps the third party as being the vice president if they lost for president, which might be an interesting way of going about it. But anyway, that's all I have for you tonight on Not the News. And it'll be interesting to follow this. I'm going to follow it, and I'll report on it as I see it and other not news. And for all you who have watched this or watch it at a future time, thank you for joining me. You can follow me on YouTube at Not the News, KNOT, my new channel. think I have to subscribe so I can get to one, literally starting today. Feel free to do that. Follow me on X at Not Legal Advice, and I'm probably gonna get another X handle for this channel also. Hope everybody's well. Take care. See you soon. Be well, and have a great